and welcome to this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show and podcast. I am your host, Christine Innes. I am delighted to have the very beautiful Beck joining us. Welcome, lovely, to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm actually really excited because I feel like today's topic, like we get to the end of the year and everyone sort of like dies off their business, but I actually think this is the most critical part for their business.
Yeah.
Like now is the time when we should be ramping up.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. So before I get carried away, because most people who've listened to the shows know that I just love a good conversation, I'm going to hand it over to you, lovely. Introduce yourself and let's dive in deep.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm Beck Chappel. I'm a marketing strategist, which essentially just means I help businesses at the start of their marketing journey when they're trying to decide what to do and where to show up and their messages and their products and services and all of those great things. I do that because prior to jumping into my own business, I was the person that came into businesses that had grown too quickly and hadn't actually thought about marketing yet. So that's where I come into the picture and sort of those foundations down for marketing. I also have a marketing podcast myself called Marketing Espresso. So that's a little bit about me and what I do day to day.
Amazing. And of course, the dogs have to go freaking crazy in the
I thought that
background.
was my dog, to be
No,
honest.
it's mine, So
Love it.
it's like, hello, ladies. Thank you so much. Welcome to the show as well. Like, hang on, let's just be real. Like, I mean, this is like what it's like running a business. And I think so many people think, okay, we have to have it all perfect. And
Mm.
I know so many business owners who actually don't even start marketing themselves till we've got the right color, we've got the right font, our Instagram looks perfect. Break that down for me, because what would you say to a client if they showed up with all of this right now going, it needs to be perfect?
I think we get stuck in our own heads and we the perfectionism takes over because it's a really nice excuse not to do things as well. Because we're like, oh, but I'm gonna get judged. The reality is people are like two sides of that coin. People are gonna judge you regardless, whether you have the perfect thing or not. But the reality is I think you're going to get less judged if you're not so perfect because you're meeting people as a human. And I think in a time where we see everything being polished and perfect. I actually think, we can see it. People are revolting it. Like they're kind of like, I don't want that. I don't want the perfect. And I think, colors, brand, all of that, super important. I would never say that it's not to the branding people that are like, yay, thanks, Spec, for saying that. But it's just about really, I guess, laying the foundation stuff, like getting an idea on paper and then like we often build the plane in the sky and there's no harm in doing that because you can learn while you go. Because if you're so set in this perfect example of what things need to look like, it doesn't actually give you the opportunity to get market feedback too, which so often we don't do if we're so, oh, it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way. We actually forget to say, what do our customers want? So it's actually a really good thing to not potentially be perfect and not be polished because it gives us the opportunity to get feedback.
Oh my God, I am so glad you said that, because so many times I hear people go, oh, but I really love it. I'm like going, that's all well and good, but who are you selling to?
Yeah.
Like, that's how, like, that's what we forget, is that essentially when we have a business, we have to sell. And so many of us get so consumed by, absolutely everything being perfect. And I'm a perfectionist, so I do totally understand, and I am one of those people that I'll sit there and go, well, the font's not quite right. I like this, so I like pretty things. But there's a saying that I always say to people is done is better than not done,
Mm.
because you've already had the courage to start a business. So why are you holding yourself back from going even further by simply over a font and colors?
Yeah. And I also think like we get so worked up because we're like everyone's going to see us. The reality is no one might see you. Like that's also so it's kind of like you can throw it out there and be like, "Hey, like let's see actually what happens. Maybe the messaging isn't right and that's why it's not getting the response it wants. Maybe the font and color is wrong." But it is also like you mentioned that like we get stuck. We're like, "I like it." Well, as you said, it's not about us at the end of the day. And like we're all guilty of this. I'm a marketer. I'm guilty of it. So often I'll go out and have a mad rant that's a rant about like something I'm pissed off about. My client doesn't care. They're not upset with the way of marketing or whatever. But it's so easy for us to be like, but that matters to me. And that's what's, fueling me instead of going, what actually does our customer want and what do they want to see? And hey, are they actually seeing me at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, like, I'm like all about visibility. And I think this is what people forget is the marketing game is how visible can you actually get? So you are in front of like hundreds, millions, whatever your goal is of potential clients. And there's two things that I want to ask you. Is first of all, your thoughts on the visibility factor, but also two is that sometimes we get overwhelmed with being visible and not actually being visible to our ideal clients.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So I definitely do think visibility is the key to marketing, right? It's the cornerstone, it's the goal, it's what we want. But to your point, it's to the people that actually are going to want to buy us. The goal should never be to go viral. I know there's a lot of people coming out and saying this now. I see it on my social media feed all the time. Unless, of course, you're a product brand, like a White Fox or someone, of course they want to go viral. Like the whole purpose of their business is to get into as many people's feeds as possible and get like, create that FOMO. But I think for a lot of us in, say, service, where we're like, for example, myself, if I went viral, it's like, well, I can't serve. But also, I'm probably not going to be going viral to the people that I want to go viral in front of.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually about visibility in the channels and the places where we're most likely to be seen, where we want to grow our profile, and also dependent on the goal that we have long term. Like, what are our business objectives? Are we going to grow the team? Is it just me, myself, and I? Do I want to remain a solopreneur? Do I want to, launch a book? Do I want to sell this business? All of those things matter to how you formulate your marketing strategy. And every single one will mean that you're going to have to take a different path. And, sometimes they'll cross over and that's fine. And sometimes the goal will change and that's also fine. But it's about knowing that the actions then that we take have to meet the goals that we have.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are also really scared of success. So, I mean, yeah, it's all great to be viral, but like you said, A, could you handle that amount of number of clients coming in? And also two is also like, are we then diluting our message too much as well?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think being really like careful the message that we go to market with about because it has to kind of bore us to the point where people understand what we stand for. And I always say to my clients, what's the hill that you're willing to die on? Like that's the thing, especially my clients that are in the service space and they want to be thought leaders and all of those great things. They might want to launch books. I'm like, well, you got to pick the thing that you care the most about. Like what makes you passionate, what fires you up? Because that's the thing generally that you're going to create products and services around. That's why you created your own business. That's why you escaped corporate. Like it's because you saw a path that wasn't already created and you want to create it for yourself because you're like, that pissed me off, that upset me, and that's something that I want to write. And do in my own way. So making sure that our message aligns with that. If we throw something completely left of field out into the world that doesn't match all of the other branding that we've done, it can be so detrimental, like don't always just jump on the trend or the thing that you see because like it doesn't always help the end goal and it can really confuse your market because yeah, that if they're used to seeing a certain conversation from you and then you just go completely off that, they'll be like, oh, I thought she was about XYZ, not that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm all about stories. Like, stories are my absolute jam. And there's two things that I love about it. Is first of all, like, there's such a huge healing process. And that was the reason why I started my business. But also, too, I think a lot of business owners forget to share their why because
Mm.
that's really what separates them from the masses.
Yeah, totally. One of the things that I work on in marketing strategy every single time, like, so I've got a whole formula of like how we go through and create foundations to actually do marketing, right? And one of the things that we work on is unique selling proposition. And people are like, oh, I deliver 10 out of 10 customer service. And it's like, oh, that's nice. So does everyone else. But when we want to get really granular and really understand why your business does stand out and why someone would choose you over the competition. Also, why someone wouldn't choose you, which is just as important, by the way, because we don't want everyone to choose us because that means we're not being true to why we are in business, right? So even though we all love money, but we come down into this story and this passion and this why because it seems fluffy, and I always joke that like I'm the non-fluffy marketer, but there has to be an element of, that storytelling, that who I am, that why I started this. Because on the days, and I say this sometimes, like on the days when you're in the corner crying because everything is falling apart and you don't want to show up and you don't want to market your business, and hell, you probably want to, burn the thing to the ground because we're all going to have those days. If you can't tap back into actually, this is why it's important. This is the work that I want to do. This is the work that I know is going to have the impact that I want to have. And this is why I decided to create this business and deal with everything that comes with owning a business, right? Because it is a roller coaster. I don't need to tell anyone that. But, on the days where you're like, am I paying my mortgage this month, especially when you're in startup? That why and that having it documented, having it somewhere where you can really tap back into it and go, no, this work matters, or hey, this work doesn't matter to me anymore, because that could also be the thing, right? But it's like articulating that, and people do care. Like constantly, the storytelling and doing the storytelling well is where I see people really excel in their marketing, especially if they're on that path of, solopreneur, thought leader, book, podcaster, all of those things, because people want to know, they want to know what makes you tick because they're curious, right? It's why reality
Yeah.
shows are so popular.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that I've also come over the last sort of, I reckon probably 2 years, is like I've actually stopped worrying about how many likes, how many followers I get, because what I've noticed is that we actually have lazy followers, and they're the people who really they love your content, but they are just too lazy to hit that like, too busy to hit the follow button, but they will actually buy from you. So they're just silent followers. They're silent buyers. And I think it's really hard to actually educate other people. Like, yes, the amount of likes and followers, and that is great to sort of have a look at KPIs, but it's not actually everything
Mm.
for you to measure on.
Yeah, and I feel like metric marketing has become, there's been this huge movement away from brand marketing is one of the things I've seen with the rise of digital and the rise of, we can see all the data. And this is one of the arguments in the very early days moving from traditional to digital. And it was this, but we can see our customers, we can see if they're interacting, we get real-time results. And in the early days, that was really exciting. So all the unis, all the big brands, we've seen it with like the Nikes of the world. Nike is a really great example of this, and I won't go into why in too much detail, but they definitely moved away from brand marketing. And one of the things that happened because they removed to results-driven digital marketing, and one of the things that happens is you really lose brand, like that, I guess that brand loyalty that we're all wanting. And one of the ways that we build that up is actually through the stuff that doesn't necessarily give us the metrics. And I say this to clients all the time. Marketing takes time, and it's the one thing that I think because we've been programmed to believe that we live in a world where we can get instant hits. We can get, this instant gratification of I'm awesome and I'm the best in my field, and, I can grow $1 million business overnight. That is BS. No one can actually, well, I mean, people do it, but the people that are in business long term know that it's the long game that matters, not the short game. If you're in business to build something, get out and sell it, and you're in that tech world especially, 100% your strategy is quick growth, dirty growth, brand recognition not so important. But if you're in the game of longevity, you are in the game of unfortunately having to put time and energy into things where you won't see that instant gratification. And that is just the reality. All of the marketing bros out there telling you that show up every single day and you'll get, 100,000 followers overnight, it is BS. Like it is the thing that's the hill I'm willing to die on is that if you want true that really powerful brand growth and brand recognition and brand visibility,
Yeah.
which does matter, your marketing has to align with the metrics that matter in that space. However, if you are spending money on ads and things like that, that does get instant ROI. That's something that if you're not getting money back after a month, you turn it off. But that the brand stuff that you're doing traditionally, like back in the day when you got a TV ad or a radio ad or a billboard, you had to wait for the benefits to come in. So That's probably been a massive shift that I've seen in marketing and one that people don't want to get on board with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like that's the biggest thing. Like I always say it's likes over legacy. Like what's the legacy that you want
Yeah.
to leave?
Mm.
And, digital footprint is just another thing. Like there's multiple different ways that you can actually market your business.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, like they just go, oh, I've been posting so many times a day. Like that's all wonderful, but there is adding in a variety of it as well, because, when we're consuming information, we all consume information differently. So we've actually got to remember that our audience, and sometimes we don't even know how they like to consume information when we're new. That's why we need to actually spread it out. And it's actually one of the reasons why I've created a podcast. Then I've created a YouTube channel. I've created the magazine. So that way we are tapping into different ways that people consume information, not just constantly posting on social media.
Yeah, and I think we have this beautiful understanding now with consumer behavior that none of us are all the same. Like we're looking at spectrums now where people are, a lot more people are finding out they're actually neurodivergent. So, hey, the traditional ways of buying, not to mention we have an entire generation now coming into main consumer territory that have grown up on digital media. So, therefore, the way that they consume versus a boomer versus an X versus a millennial, we're all going to consume differently. So, hey, you better know your market really, really well and you better be figuring out how they consume with the knowledge that there's still nuances within those different generations of how they consume too. And I think it makes it feel very overwhelming, but it's actually really not because it is about, find the channels that work for your customer, show up in them, and remember that, especially if you're choosing social media as like this, I'm going to post 15 times a day on Meta, please stop. It's actually not the posting. You can't algorithm hack. That's not a thing. It doesn't exist. Social media marketers will hang me out for that, but it's flat out not a thing. If you want to succeed on social media, it's actually about the community you're building. It's about the people you're talking to. It's about like being genuine and not just going and cold DMing them. And, it's actually about that genuine connection, especially in a time where we have AI that can create mass content. It's not good content. You are better off showing up once a week and having really deep connections with people than you are just adding to the noise where you have 3 seconds to grab someone's attention. So if you got 3 seconds, you'd better be the best damn thing on the internet. You'd better be a French bulldog in my newsfeed.
Oh
Otherwise,
no, well I've got a dash hound in the back. I use
right?
her for publicity. Like
Yeah,
she gets more likes than a photo of me. Like
100%. 100%. People don't care about me.
no, not at all. Like, who are you? Oh, we just want to see photos of the dog.
Literally.
So yeah, absolutely. Well, I like as I said, like I think there's so much to marketing that I think, we've really got to start thinking like long-term game
Mm.
for it. One of the things I would really love to, get your answer on is, I hear a lot of people, oh, this is like my checklist of like starting a business. And the
Mm.
marketing plan actually is missing. And it's not just even a plan, it's even going, well, what platforms are you showing up on? Like even knowing who your ideal client is. But yet they've gone and spent thousands of dollars on, look, I'm not bashing these people who do branding kits because I still do it for my clients, but I think that this is one of the most, you know, the best piece that you can have for your business because it's actually going to make you sales.
I love that you say that because then I don't even have to sell myself, right? But but I'll say like this is how I've built my career, right? Because
Yeah.
people forget this piece and then they're 3 years in and they're like, I've built a beast that I can't get on top of because word of mouth is incredibly popular. It is powerful. Your networks are powerful. And then
Yeah.
before you know it, I see two things. You've either completely hit the ceiling and then like sales are dropping off and you're like, holy shit, what do I do next?
Mm-hmm.
And or you've built a business, you've employed team, and suddenly you have absolutely no systems to support your marketing. Your sales is a mess. No one's talking to the receptionist that's doing your marketing and or the VA and or whoever you've employed to kind of plug that hole. They're doing a poor job. No one in your business actually understands what the brand is about because you've forgotten to communicate that well. Because by the way, you're busy. It's not because you're bad. It's just because you're busy. And that's what happens. And that's when traditionally I've come into businesses and gone, sometimes they're up to 100 employees by the time I walk in and I'm like, holy Lord. And that's a lot of unlearning to do for teams, right? And the culture, and there's just so many things that are like needed to put back on track by that point. So one of the things I say, it's like chicken and egg, right? Do I get my brand or my marketing first? It's like both, please, because you do need to have some brand. Like, yes, you need to have a logo and colors. It's important. Aesthetics do matter. We do buy based on aesthetics. We know that. Like, there is, a whole bunch of psychology around that sort of stuff. However, basic is okay. Like, once again, perfect doesn't need to be perfect, but you do need to understand a little bit about and have done some research into, does your product and service actually, is it needed? Do you have do you have a market to begin with? Um, and also, where are you going to show up? Because where are you going to get results? And where are you not going to? One of the things I wish I could tell everyone is like, you're going to waste so much time if you don't do this foundation stuff. And time is one of those beautiful things that we never get back. And also, when we don't get results, it kills our confidence. And it's not that you're not a good business owner. It's not that you're not good in business. It's not any of those things often. It's just you didn't set yourself up for success because you were like so, or you got AI to build your marketing strategy. And bless it, it can't. It can. I mean, it can, but let's not forget it's just pumping out the same of everyone else, right? There are definitely ways that we can use it, but I would suggest that with things as important as your business strategy and your marketing strategy, please don't outsource them to AI. Like, go and get the expertise, even if it's a really great mentor that's in marketing, they're gonna help you set up in a way that's going to help you build success. Like, this is one of the things, like, I understand you don't always have big budgets at that starting point as well. So once again, just understanding some very basic stuff about marketing, like even the 5 Ps and getting those nailed, great place to start. And then when you've got some cash under, cash in the bank and you're like, I can invest heavier in this, then do that. But by God, get a website for like, websites are still important. If I see another bro marketer being like, you don't need a website to make 100K, I'm going to like literally break the internet. But it is like super important to be doing those things.
That and email list, like, and I think
Yes.
that's a whole new different topic
Yeah,
because the
database and
amount of,
CRM.
I mean, everybody, like, I've got clients and they're like, I don't have an email list. I'm like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
how are you connecting with your client?
But and look, even if it's not to actually email them, like
Yeah.
even if it's like just a really, you can get HubSpot for free. There is a beautiful version of HubSpot. It's free. There's other free CRMs out there, but just have somewhere to store your customer data that's not necessarily an Excel spreadsheet because security people, we also have very big security breaches happening. So make sure customer data is stored somewhere with a place where you can put reminders to just contact people. It doesn't mean you have to have a full email marketing funnel going on. That's ideal, but when we're starting out, obviously we're not going to be the perfect machine. So let's just start with, some good practices that like are going to help you along that journey as well.
Oh, I just love this so much because I never used to be a marketing person, but then I'm like going, well, I'm actually in the game of marketing. Like, it's really interesting how we sort of perceive ourselves differently. I'd love to ask you just some, like, one question that you would suggest anybody listening, right? Regardless of whatever stage of business they're at, what question could they ask themselves right now to give them sort of like a thermos of sort of like where they're at in their business?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And I think the thing I would ask is like what's killing your energy, what's feeding your energy?
Mm.
So like go and have a look like because then it could be a case of like for example I've done this in my business a million thousand times because I find myself back into those zones of oh something's killing my energy and like Mondays don't seem fun anymore. And when you start feeling that drained feeling like oh I need to constantly run from my business, have it might not actually be your business, it just might be some of the things that you're doing in your business that you've definitely outgrown. So have a thought of like have ask yourself that question, what's draining me and what's giving me energy? And, that whole sometimes we do have to just take the leap and outsource something that's killing us because it's stopping sales. So knowing, yeah, that energy drains and energy gains.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here today and just sharing your gifts with us. Like, honestly, I could chat with you all day and dive in
Likewise.
deep. Yeah. So just amazing. We're going to pop all the details of how everyone can reach out to you, Beck. And like, honestly, I just say to anybody, you just get one little snippet from today, like just really considering where you are with your marketing, because it is actually the game changer for your business.
Yeah, and I think like don't let yourself slip into overwhelm. But thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me as well. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for all of you who have shown up today, listened to this episode. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button, put your comments below, and remember to live life to the fullest every single day. Love and light to you all.